everyone, welcome to Kelly's Creative Dream Studios and Mixed Media Monday. Today we are working on 3 elements using our napkins for the July Just Junk Journal Challenge with Dear Julie. Still plenty of time to play, I know, because I've done it in 24 hours before, so if you've not joined us yet, you still have plenty of time to at least come in and pick up a few elements and get your fingers ready for our August challenge. We are also going to start doing 12 days of Christmas here in just a couple of days, and so you'd have time to jump in on that one from the very beginning. So what I've done is I've come up with 3 different items using a napkin and my coffee items, stuff from my kit, which was what I had to use. And these 2 items here, I got the idea from other videos, and I will link those and coordinate down below. This will be pocket, which will be our number 1. This will be our matchbook styled notepad. And then we have, this is a page adornment where it can sit here and you could glue it on 2 sides and use it as a corner tuck. But I've left part of that on there to flip over, and I will put journaling paper on the back of this. And I will do that when I do our sample here next. So that's what we are working on today. I've pre-cut everything to save a little bit of time. I've really been burning through my data on my HughesNet, so I'm trying to condense. And of course, there are things you don't necessarily need to watch me do, like cut cardstock. Which our cardstock for these is actually, these 2 are toilet paper tissue rolls, and this one is using one of my Belvita cookie cartons. And this cup is cut from a Gavelia 2-step caramel macchiato coffee. So let's start with our pocket number 1 from our toilet paper roll. And I have everything right here cut and ready to go, including the lace. I tried to keep these simple, partly because I want to make sure that I get done with this, because I want to be able to play with the 12 days of Christmas journal that we're going to be starting. So all I did was, let me see, I thought I had a full toilet tissue roll here handy. Apparently I don't. Hold that thought. I did have a whole box of toilet tissue rolls already mashed down, ready to use, and I knew exactly where I had it sitting, and I do not remember moving it, but it's not where I put it. So all I did was I mashed the toilet paper down, the tube down, and if you want to get a little bit more intense with these, give them a squirt of water. That helps break down the fibers in the cardboard. And then run it through your Vagabond, your Sizzix machine, your Spellbinder, whatever your die cutting machine is, or press it with an iron. So what I did with this one, to get this was, actually I didn't cut it, all I did was cut right along that fold and just cut it off. Just like that. And that gave me 2 of these that I could work with, and I didn't do anything else to them other than just cut them down. Okay, so then I'll use a piece of my paper here. I figured out about how much of this napkin I needed to use and how I wanted to position my flower, and I think I want to use this like this. And I just gave myself a little extra room and cut around this so I wasn't trying to manipulate the whole piece when I'm gluing. And we will use this one on another project. Okay, so then I took, and I'm using just a scratch mat here, paper mat here, to lay this down, and I'm using a glue stick. I have found the glue stick works the best for applying a napkin. I've tried some of the other techniques, such as ironing it on with wax paper, and that's, for me, that seems to release over time. I don't know if I'm just not doing it right, but I wasn't happy with it. But this I do like, and I think I want to be able to, let's take and lay this down. And you want to take your time laying that down so you can try not to have any wrinkles, because I got to tell you, once you get a wrinkle in there, if you try pushing it out because of that glue, you're going to wind up tearing your napkin. You need to be careful. And then this is easier to cut down if you let it dry first, but just come back in and trim off your pieces. Use those for collage somewhere else. Don't get rid of them. Little pieces like that, yeah, we'll get rid of. You know what? Let me trim this one down. Yeah, I start out with 50 gig of data on my HughesNet for anytime usage. And then I have 50 gig that I can use between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. because that's their less busy time. Well, apparently I'm going to have to start getting up at 2 a.m. to upload my videos. Because between that and being in on some of the other classes, like I had a writer's class this weekend, and I didn't even get to all of those. I had no data left. I had to go in and buy tokens for data this month. Okay, so I think if I punch this out here, I think, well, maybe I won't lose too much of my flour. So I'm using my 1-inch hole punch from Stampin' Up. And any Stampin' Up tools or anything that I think you might want to use, I will link down below. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator. I'm more of a hobby dem. I play for my discount, but, you know, if you want to place an order with me, I'd love to have you. Now, to tell you just how super simple this piece is. Now, you've seen me use my craft glue before. I've pointed it out before. This is what I use for fabric because it is just a super easy white glue. I paint it on with my little paintbrush, and it grabs my fabric almost instantly. And I'm pretty liberal with the glue because I want to make sure it gets into the fabric, into the fibers of the fabric. So, but even at that, you can see it doesn't take a whole lot. And I'm just going to clean my brush off here by putting it on this lace. And I think I put that on the wrong side, but it'll dry. It dries clear. And we'll just press it down, and it won't take it but just a minute. And while it sets, I'm going to come back here and get a piece of my fabric. You know, I've been using this fabric. I have not touched either one of the other fabrics yet, but this fabric just looks so nice under that gold lame that I use with the beadwork on it, that I just don't go anywhere with any of the other stuff. Maybe on one of the other challenges, I will challenge myself on one of the other elements to pull out one of the other two fabrics to use. Now, I wanted this square to be pretty liberally size, so we'll tear it down. And then I went around and I frayed the edges a little bit more. I pulled off some of the threads so that I had some texture around the edges. I mean, if you're going to tear it, let those frazzles, as we used to call them, show. And I will be offering frazzled fabric in my Etsy shop. I have a master plan, and that is to get rid of some of my tubs of fabric downstairs. And Happy Mail and Etsy shop purchasers are going to be the recipients of quite a bit of my fabric pieces in various forms, whether it be jelly roll strips or fabric squares or frazzles. Okay, and then I used my fabric glue again. And while this is here, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off with my fabric scissors. Use my small ones and trim that down. Just like that. And then come back in and put a generous amount of glue. Just kind of spread it onto the center of the fabric. I didn't want the whole fabric panel glued down. I wanted it to have some motion. So I just put the glue in the center, and then I put it at an angle that gave it some more motion. And then I have this other piece of beadwork that is different from the one I was using, that I used on this one. And this is just a clip off from that beaded lame fabric. Finally figured out what that fabric was. It's almost like a net. I guess it's not really a lame either. It is a net. And that gold shimmery stuff, I love it. I'm so glad my sister purchased this and shared it with me. She's a pretty good kid. I like her. She's my sissy, and I wouldn't trade her for nothing. Okay, and then I'm going to just go ahead and go back and dab some more of this glue onto the back of this beading. Now there's some stitching there where they knotted that beading down, and I want to make sure that I get plenty of glue on that so it'll stick. And that's all we're going to do to that little pocket. That's how quickly it came together. So there is number one. That's the pocket. Okay, now let's do, what do you want me to do next? How about if we do this one next? This one is really super easy. And I had it wrapped in another napkin because I wasn't sure I was going to have room. But I'm only supposed to use one napkin, so shh. We're going to try and make this other half of this napkin work. I forgot I had the whole square. Now this napkin it is a dinner napkin, and it has all 4 panels. And it has taken all 4 panels to do these 3 elements. I still have some little pieces over here I can use on other things, but specifically to do these elements. Now for this one, I did go ahead and trim this off on the end, on the side, just like I did the other one. But then, when I opened it up, I wanted to make sure I left that fold and gave myself a little bit of a hinge. So I came over a generous 1/4 of an inch and trimmed that off just like that. And then I'm going to flatten it out a little bit more. Now you'll notice these have got little tips off of them. That's where this coiling was up at the top, where the tube is wrapped. And so this one won't have those decorative little punch-offs on the corner. Did the same thing for this one, but I opened it up so I could see where my side seam was. Got out my handy-dandy glue stick again. And you don't want a bunch of glue on that seam. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth there. Don't let it bunch up in that spot, and make sure you get your corners good and your edges so that your napkin doesn't peel up on you. It's a glue stick. It's not expensive. Use it liberally. Okay, and then this one's going to have to go, I want to go there. Guess I want to go this way. Let's go this way with this. And again, just kind of walk that napkin down. Don't get in a hurry, because once it makes contact with that glue and gets wet, it's gonna rip on you if you get too carried away. Just take your time and treat it gentle. It's a baby. Speaking of babies, I don't know if I told you last week, I found out that a little girl that was in my daycare when she was 5 weeks old is now 23. And expecting twins. So I'm mad dashing here to also get 2 receiving blankets crocheted. And then as soon as we have the gender reveal August 1st, I will be able to go back and make baby quilts that will be gender specific and made personalized for each child. Okay, there's that. And then this will fold over just like that. And see what I did? I rubbed that and I tore that. But we're going to be able to camouflage that, most of it, with, did I not have another piece of that brown? Oh, there it is. This is a trimming off of some of that brown teardrop lace. And I've just taken a piece of it and letting it hang out. I think I want to go this way with this. I think I want to trim that off. And again, this is where I use that fabric glue. I decide how I want this to run. I'd really like to fray that off, but I don't think it's going to fray. So we'll just let that hang out. Come back with our fabric glue and just lay it over top of some of the heavier areas of this piece. I love this white glue. I've tried the fabric tack, not a fan. I guess it's a slimy kind of glue, and it just, I don't know. Everybody has their preference as to what glue they like to use. I like this craft glue. And it will dry clear, so you won't see any of that I just put down. Now for the flower, and I know I had those hole punched because I did not want to have to play with them. I thought I had them hole punched. Okay, guess we're going to go back and do another one because I thought I had everything punched for those. And they were probably on this table somewhere. But I used this Marvy punch, and I punched one from the toilet tissue, and then one from a cafe coffee thing, and because it's disappeared, who knows where it vanished to. Let me grab another piece of that coffee carton. I used this specifically because I wanted this darker brown contrast on the top. And it's a little tough to punch through this cardboard, but we will make it work. Excuse me while I stand up and get in your way. There we go. It's a tough one. But you're punching through multiple layers of cardstock on that. And that flower, I punched his tip off, but he'll work. And then I'm going to take my needle tool and get me a center there. Got my piercing pad. And then I'm just going to kind of kitty this around, line it up, and put in a center. Now one thing now don't push it all the way through till you get to the wider part of your piercing tool, or you're not going to be happy. You're going to tear at your center. And then I took, this is one of my items that I traded off the paper for, so that I had all this bead trim, all these nice coffee colors on here. And I cut one of the sections off so that I could get to just a little brown bead on the end. And then I took some of my signature, what I used to stitch my signature in, and I came back with my chocolate chip ink and just swiped it over top of the thread to dye the thread. Now you can do this with a perma marker. Perma markers in your inks will work best because they have more of a permanent stability, but I threaded the bead on the end. And then I'm just going to run this through the flower. Now I'm not going to try tying a knot on this. I'm not suicidal. I'm just going to use a piece of my tear and tape. And I may have to get the new pierce out, well, because I think this is going to stick to the... I'm down to the very last couple inches of this, and I really hate to waste it. If I can get it off of that plastic roll. And I'm just going to take a piece of this and lay it right on top of that thread and let it seal that thread for me. Partly because I don't want the bulk of a knot on the back of my flower. Okay, and we just got that on there. Now I'll peel the paper off, but I am going to add glue, and I'm going to use the craft glue because I'm adhering to that fabric. And I'm going to put a dollop of this glue on the back. And then press it right there in place. And that's all it takes. And then I can glue this like this and glue the paper onto the inside, or I could tuck it onto the side and then on this side run some of that trim down. For now, I am going to go back and I want to put paper on the back of this. And I took my calendar paper over, so I'm just going to go ahead and use a piece of this right now that's handy. It's cut off. And we'll use our Tombow Mono liquid glue here. Turn that over so you're pressing down on a flat surface, not against your bumps, but away from your bumpy items. And then we can come back and trim them off. Just like that. Get my little garbage pieces out of the way. I'm horrible. I don't like garbage on my plate, on my table when I'm working. And then I'm going to come back with my ink, my charcoal, and just hit the edges with that so it kind of all looks like it belongs. I didn't do that on this one. Just like that. Now while I'm sitting here, I'm going to go ahead and get this one glued on. Trying to play catch up around here. I realized yesterday that Bob is only gone another week and a half. And I still have not moved the Stampin' Up! Stuff off the dining room table that I need to catalog. So I'm working really, really hard to try and get all my work done up ahead of time this week so I can use the rest of the week to get those cataloged. Partly because all of my stamps are on 2-3 shelf bookcases and behind my camera over here. And I need to take my filming table completely down while I'm working on that. And so I need to get the videos recorded first. So that's what I'm going to work on today and tomorrow. Getting all 3 of them for the week done up. So I can come back. Oh, we don't need that on there. And we want that folded in. There we go. And then I'll come back and hit this with this. And there we go. That is element number 2. That's our flip journaling spot. So that's number 2. And then we have number 3. This one's a little bit more involved. So I wanted to save it for last. And what I've done is I have pre-cut this piece of cardstock. Now this piece of cardstock measures 8.5 by 4 1/4. No, 8 by 4, excuse me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get out our trimmer or whatever you use for your scoring tool. And we are scoring at 3 1/4. And then we're going to flip it around and score at 1 1/4. Okay. And what I did to determine my measurements, I cut a piece of paper the same size as my cardstock, and then I figured out where I needed my folds to be, where my coffee cup had to go to fit, that kind of thing. And that's how I determined where my score lines were going to be. That is going to be different for you based on the size that you use for this. But mine was 4 by 8, scored at 3 3/4 from one end, and then flipped it around and scored at 1 1/4 from the other end. So we can take, and I want to go ahead and give them a little bit of texture So get them scored down a little bit first. And I just, if I can't find my scoring tool handy, I just go ahead and use my ruler. The handles of your scissors will also work really well. You just have to be careful pressing with your ruler that you don't press so hard that you wind up snapping your ruler in half. Don't ask how I know. Okay, we've got this down. Now, my napkin was not going to cover this, so I've added napkin to this element to bring in the napkin. But I'm using my polka dotted wrapping paper that I could use. And again, it's a glue stick time. Works just fine for this. Just make sure you get your edges good, your corners, and on those folds, because those fold lines are going to be stress points when you fold this back up again. So make sure you've got the glue on those fold lines. And then we're just going to lay our wrapping paper down here and squeegee that on. This is what hotel room keys are good for. And I have hundreds of them. And then I'm going to come back and trim this off. Boy, I am just shaking tonight. It must be my sugar, I'll bet, because I'm beginning to think about dinner. Whoops. Shaking let me lop off a little bit of that corner. But you know what? By the time we're done, we won't notice a difference. Now, if you have trouble trimming up against something, if you come at it at a 45-degree angle, you will be able to get a smoother cut along your edge without cutting your napkin, or without cutting into your piece. And that's one of the rules I didn't follow when I was cutting that top and I was shaking. So, okay, let's see what else we've got here. What else do we need? We've got this, and with this we will add on last. So next we have, you can see I put the napkin on the inside. Let's see how much of this napkin we have left that we can utilize. Thought I had more of it left than that. Apparently not. Well, I got to be able to get that in. So, you know, because it is a napkin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one just a little bit different than that one, because I really, oh, there is the other half of that napkin. Duh. I had it laid off to the side already. There are days it really doesn't pay to be me, honest. Now I don't want to cut down to this line. So I'm going to take, I need to roll this over. It's starting to stick everywhere. Figure out where I want this to go. See where my fold line's at. Then I'm going to cut. Well, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and let it go all the way down. Let's do that. Let's do that. Because I'm going to do my notepad just a little bit differently too, and I'll explain to you when we put the notepad together what I did and what I'm going to do different. But for now, let's get on those creases, get on those corners. If you use a lot of glue stick, now is the perfect time to go get a stock up on them. Now they will dry out over time, so you want to watch that. Get only what you think you're going to use, say, in the next year, and keep them in a temperature controlled environment. But they are super cheap right now with back to school. So I'm going to go right here, because I really want as much of this up here on the top as I can get. And press that down. Flip this over and come back and cut it off of this side. Now, if you want to, you can try doing this and holding it down, but you're going to tear it. I just know it. Let's stick to the scissors. It's just hard to cut when it's freshly glued because it's awfully soft. Same way with this one here. And it's not so much the glue sticking to your scissors, although I do have some tape or some sticky scissors over here. It's just that it's soft and you really need to let that glue dry if you can. So if you can glue this ahead of time and then set it aside and do another element, that is your best course of action. Okay, now we've got this here. I'm going to go ahead and let the glue, go ahead and cover this up here. I think I got it down far enough that time. Okay. Now let's set this aside and let it dry while we do our notebook. Oh, you know what I did? I took and put my paper for the notebook over there. Will these fit? Nope, I like the other ones better. Hold that thought. I'll try not to roll my chair over the cat that is down here laying under my feet. Really thought I had all these components laying over here, but then I got all excited about cleaning up my space so that there would be room for me to actually do the video that I forgot. I don't want those pages. Let's go. I think I pulled 2 sheets from my calendar. And let me double check my measurement. They are, I did them 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to trim this part off, and I'm going to go to 3 3/4 is the width. I'm going to do that and get those pieces out of the way. And then 2 3/4, and then 2 3/4. Now, what I did on the other one that I'm doing differently on this, I initially went back and I stapled this in 3 places, and that's why I have the washi tape over this. What I want to do on this one instead is I want to go ahead and just use a bead of glue. I decided I didn't want the staples on the back of there, and I didn't think about that at the time that I did this. But this is how Julie does it, and it works just fine. So as you can get the glue to run, just run you a bead of glue right along that top edge. Lay you another one in place. And try not to have glue all over your fingers while you're trying to do this, because it makes it easier to manipulate. And I'm going to run it this way, because then I can see what I'm doing, and it will go a little bit faster. Now, remember, this is junk journaling, so they don't have to line up exactly perfect. Just general area. And it won't take long to run these together if I can get the glue to come out. That's the tricky part sometimes. And I know I could speed this through, but I've not gotten the hang of that part of editing yet. It took me 2 hours to cut a little section out of a video last week. So please just enjoy watching me run a bead of glue. While I'm gluing, let me remind you that I do have my 200 subscriber giveaway going on my channel, and I will link that video down below. What you need to do between now and this coming Friday is leave a comment answering the question that's in that description box. Share the video on your social media and tell me in your comment where you shared the video at. And make sure you're a subscriber. And next Saturday, on Shout Out Saturday, I will draw 2 winners. One will receive a game piece pack. It will have all kinds of playing cards and play money and game pieces of a variety of sorts. And the other one is going to be a paper stash, including a ledger paper from a 1927, I believe it is, real estate deeds book from the courthouse in Bolivar, Missouri. And I know the name of that county, and I'm darned if I can remember what it is. I know my daughter hates the name of the county, and she was born there. She says, Mom, why did I have to be born in that county? It's a stupid name. It's not a stupid name. I remind her that. It's not a stupid name. Now, even though I didn't do the staples on here, I'm still going to come back with my washi tape because I like that accent coloring at the top of that. So I'm going to go ahead and still run that down there. Come back and clip it off. Just like that. And make sure I'm going the right direction with this. And then I'm going to run another bead of that glue on that top. Make sure I got on that end. And you know, it really doesn't take a lot of the Tombow to hold this in place. And then I'm going to come down. I'm not going to butt right up against that fold line. I want to give this room to shut without being in the way. Now, while that's drying, I have a piece of my coffee dyed linen. That frazzle's going to drive me crazy. And it's just a little bit wide for this. I'm going to go ahead and trim this down just a little bit. Just a little too wide for this. Okay. And it's a little bit long. We're going to go ahead and trim that finished edge off. Just like that. And then I have a stamp from the stamp set that I don't know where it came from. And I'm using Coffee Run. And my Stampin' Up! Chocolate Chip ink. Remember, this is a retired ink. Any good inks will do. Stays On has a lovely brown. I believe it's a sable that is really pretty. Get that glue fragment off of there. And I'm just going to straight down, straight up. Don't rock your stamp or you'll get a smeared or blurred image. You want to stamp straight down and straight back up. Don't put it down and rock it. Don't try to rock it this way. Straight down, straight up, and you'll be much happier with your image. Okay, then I'm going to come back with my fabric glue. I still have glue on the tips of my fingers, and every time I come near that napkin over there, it attacks me. Now, I'm not coating the whole back of this. I'm just running a strip of this, bit of this glue down through the middle. And remember, if you don't put glue every little edge down when it comes to things like fabric, that's going to give you some movement whenever you're flipping through your journal. Okay. And then the important thing, make sure you get your wording right side up. And then just press that into place. Just like that. If you want, use a scrap of paper to press that down. And there we go. Now we're going to fold this up. And I didn't quite get my fold straight, but we can fix that. And we're going to bring this one down. And this is going to tell us where our coffee cup needs to go. We don't want it too far up. You want to be able to tuck that tab in. You want to just hold that in place. So I'm going to use the caramel where the froth starts, and I'm going to use that caramel break right there as my line. And that's where I'm going to put my I lost my train of thought. The dimensionals. It was there. I know it was. And I thought what I'd do is, because I'm all out of my edges, is this is just double back foam tape. You can get this at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be precise with this. I need it to be about 1.5 inches long. So I need 2 pieces 1.5 inches long. So what if we just go to the 3-inch mark and cut it in half. Let's use our sticky scissors for this one. I know I'm not supposed to, but you know what? I don't want to get my things all sticky. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to remember which direction I'm going. Cut it in half. I'm telling you, there are days. And we're just going to lay that. Now, if you have trouble seeing where your edge is, lay it against a contrasting color, and then you can see where your edge needs to go. And I'm going to turn this one around since I started those splits. Let those splits be at the bottom so they don't hang me up. And then I can tear this paper off of here. Just like that. Oops, not all the paper come off of that one. There we go. Hold this down. Now I just butted that up against there and kind of got an idea of where I wanted that to go. Just held it in place on that top and then pushed that foam into place. And there we have our matchbook notebook. And you can, with a thinner board, and as you play with this more, it'll loosen up, but there we go. So that is our 3 components for the napkin challenge, to make 3 elements using a napkin. And we have 2 of our notebooks, which, because I will have 1 of each in each of my 2 signatures. So I have those 2. And then I have my flip pockets for there. And then we have our stationery pocket with our thumb hole to remove our tags. So that's it for Mixed Media Monday. Remember to check out the links down below for our July Just Junk Journal Challenge with Dear Julie, and for the giveaway here on this channel. And as soon as I have a link for our 12 Days of Christmas Journal, I'm going to link Julie's channel, period, down below. Go in and subscribe to her and watch, because I believe that 12 Days of Christmas starts this week. I could be wrong, but I believe it starts this week. I will be back on Friday with a Friday freebie, and then our Saturday shout out, and our drawing for the giveaway, and then our Stampin' Up Sunday. So come back and join me for the rest of the week. Find time to play. Creative blessings.